Okay, thank you, Mr. Fitra. I will share my PPT. Okay, could you see my PPT right now?
Yes, I can see that.
Okay. Okay. Ah, okay. Good evening, everyone. Nice to meet you all. This is my, I'm very thanks to Mr. Fitda and Opta community have invited me to join in this community, especially for Learn English. This is the very interesting community for me. And okay, let me introduce myself. My name is Roberto Sudiutomo. You can call me Hudi. I am from Singkawang, West Kalimantan, and now I am a student in agricultural microbiology for semester in Faculty of Agriculture, Universitas Gadjah Mada, Yogyakarta. And today, in this evening, we will discuss about the post-China philosophy in search of modernity and beyond. So actually my English skill is not good at all, but I try to learn together with you all guys. I think you are the best teacher for me. So today we will discussing about this topic. Okay, this is me, Hudi. Okay. So uh, before we start this discussion, I want to say about I want to ask a question about what do you think about philosophy? Maybe you have ever hear from other or something you read or something you go to you can to see from your social media or television or some maybe you can to find in your classroom that you can to know about the what do you think about the philosophy. Maybe you can to give your opinion with user interface in Zoom with raise hand if you have an opinion. If you have an opinion. Okay, Mr. Killy or Miss Killy, can you give your could you give your opinion about what do you think about the philosophy? Times is yours, Mr. Killy.
Hi, everybody.
Hello.
For me, I think philosophy is. Are you guys hearing my voice right now?
Yes, we can to hear your voice.
My very personal statement. I think philosophy is a study that learn about questions such as reason, existence, knowledge, value, or mind, and other thing lah, like that. Thank you.
Okay, that say that the philosophy is a thing about the study or something like a valuable or a memorical. Okay, thank you, Mr. Kelly. Next, Mr. or Miss Chikoneng Ilir, can you could you give your interpretation about what do you think about the philosophy?
Okay, thanks for the opportunity. Perhaps as far as I concern, philosophy means the complexity or the core of science. We can say that the root of science, because the entire science is coming from a philosophy created by the notorious people such as Plato, Aristotle, and also Socrates, like consciousness and dialectica and the other thing. It seems like the abstract thing that we can figure out what is the meaning of that. because every single human being has the understanding or the meaning in everything in the abstract noun. So it means philosophy. Thanks.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chikoy Iliria, that you say that the philosophy is a big core of the science. Is very interesting. That yeah, maybe this is the many people says that the philosophy is the core of science. Maybe from the agricultural or scientific or social education of something, it's come from the philosophy. Thank you, Mr. Chikoy Iliria, and now Mr. San or JC Kamolwet, could you give your interpretation or perspective about what do you think about the philosophy? Mr. Chaisi
Hello.
Kamolwet, time is yours. Hello.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you for giving me a chance. When you want to know more, what do you think about the philosophy? We can divide it into quite sense and a broad sense. In quite literally, in term philosophy means love of wisdom. And when we want to know more, what is in a broad sense, philosophy is an activity people undertake when they seek to understand fundamental truths about themselves and the world in which they live and their relationship to the world and each other. We can like this interaction, our activity into the world. Thank you. Is it from me?
Okay, nice argument from Mr. JC Kamolfert or Mr. San, that he said that the divided into the category that's the fundamental of the things of the science that we can to know the for the branch of science, if it's atmosphere of science. Okay, thank you for Mr. Uh, San. Okay, now next, I want to maybe I want to know about more interpretation about this one. Maybe Mr. M. Indrewano, could you give your interpretation about what do you think about the philosophy?
Yeah, well, I suppose that my assumption is almost same with others, but this is the way of me how to interpret the meaning of philosophy. Yeah, philosophy is like a belief or value or way how to solve one problem. Yeah, the way how the people think about something and how the way of them how to solve that problem. Everyone has their own philosophy. It means they have their own way how to solve the problems. It's like when you're trying to see a six, yeah, but in one side, it means it's not the all of the scientists will think that it is a six. Maybe when you see in another side, it'll be nines. So it's almost same with the with the people has their own ways. They have their own philosophy how to face their life. So this is like the interpretation of me of the meaning of philosophy.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Indrewanov, that you said that, okay, based on the perspective, yeah, independence perspective, uh, from based on the way or they people said about the philosophy, yeah, this is the interesting argument. So once again, I want to ask about the interpretation of what do you think about the philosophy. Perhaps Mr. Alexander, could you give your interpretation about what do you think about the philosophy? Yeah, times is yours.
Well, thank you very much for the time given to me, Mr. Robertus. For me, personally, philosophy is about understanding the essence of everything in life, either someone or ideas or something, everything. So it is important to me to have, or everyone to have their own philosophy. In this opportunity, I would also add my grievance regarding people's perspective that are reluctant to study about philosophy. Some people might think that they are reluctant to learn philosophy because learning philosophy doesn't give me money. It couldn't earn more money to me. But in fact, if you would like to earn money, learning philosophy is not the key in my perspective. However, that's more important than money, because when you have your own philosophy, there's a lot of or a plethora of benefits that you can have in your life. First, in my assumption, you will not be easily carried away by your situation or influenced by circumstances happening in the world. You have your principle when you learn philosophy. Therefore, you are not easily carried away by situations, common situations happening in the world. Secondly, learning philosophy or having a good philosophy, in my viewpoint, can make people easily um, take some conclusions regarding what's occurring around the world right now. For example, if there's a harsh environment or even economic crisis, for instance, they could wisely take some conclusions or thoughtful opinions regarding things happening in the world currently. And last but not least, in my opinion, is about changing the world. Because when you would like to change the world, you need to digest, you need to comprehend what's going on in the world, right? So in order to comprehend the world perfectly, I think philosophy is great to learn. That's my simple opinions. Thank you, Mr. Robertus.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Alexander. Yeah, that's nice. Friends, today that's Mr. Alexander says, I said that philosophy it's from the way that they give their his opinion from the example, and then we know that's the I can to uh, pick the interpretation from more than three people says that the philosophy is like core of science. Philosophy is like a valuable. Philosophy is like a principle in life. So that's interesting. So next, yeah, yeah. Our friend said that made philosophy from their own interpretation, their perspective about the philosophy. So I want to ask, let's we continue about our philosophy story. I think every people have a unique characteristic. I think that every people have own characteristic. So from this their own characteristic, I think that people have their perspective or their principle during he or her life. So could you give your story about the philosophy based on your life? Yeah, you can to use your future user interface with Zoom with future raise hand. Perhaps you have a story about your philosophy in your life. Maybe you have a own philosophy or something like maybe the coffee philosophy like that. So based on your argument, you can to give your philosophy story maybe.
Mr. Hudi, could you give one example? It's like the story of philosophy of our life, for example.
Okay. Yeah, for example, based on my example, right? So I have a philosophy like for example, I have a philosophy tree or yeah, tree. I think that tree is a very interesting object to my philosophy. Why? Because tree can make photosynthesis or tree can make respiration to accumulate oxygen to us. And I think that tree is a very benefit. That's the kingdom in Plantae and make good for ecosystem, maybe for the microbiota or something like that in this atmosphere. So if I have a philosophy like tree, I think that I can to give a good impact or positive vibes to every people around me. For example, like that. Maybe you have a philosophy like from things or something like that, Mr. and Indre Wano.
Okay, got it. Let me think
Okay.
for a moment.
Okay. Okay, Mr. Oneng Ilir. Times
Okay,
is yours.
I wanna try. Yeah, it's interesting.
Okay.
I'm uh, I got the philosophy of the water, or we can say that water, because the water, the entire thing of the liquid that we can call by the water, and it is the core of life because the water can give the useful thing like you can make a coffee and it will be coffee water or what is that, and also milk. In the other hand, the water is the important thing because it is part of our life, like we should take a shower to clean our bodies. And the other hand, there's the philosophy of life at the water. Certain people will say the future plan make you great or can develop your character. But in the other hand, there is a people that say let it flow because the entire thing that we can make in our future plan it doesn't happen or exist in our life, and we should change it directly as soon as possible. For this situation, I conclude water is will be useful and will be damaging when they don't have the circumstances they can flow from the up to down. Like you can say that the lake will be the bad water because they cannot have the access to flow. So for this situation, whatever happened in your life, the worst or the best, the God force you not to be a successful, but force you to try whatever the condition is. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chikonen Iler. This is very interesting, yeah, because water is very important in our life. Maybe if we live without water, I don't think that we can still alive. I don't know because our metabolism come from water. Okay, now next, Mr. M. Indrewano. Could you give your opinion or perspective about your philosophy story? Times is yours.
Yeah, it seems like Mr. Chikoning earlier, but I want to challenge for all of you guys who has this statement exactly. This is one of my idol until today. He said, empty your mind, be formless, shapeless, like a water. Put water into a cup, become the cup. Put water into the teapot, become the teapot. Water can flow or creep or drip or crash. Be water, my friend. Yeah, I just wanna challenge that. Is there anyone knows regarding who said this statement? Maybe Eka, maybe. Yeah, that's cool. It's coming from Bruce Lee.
Okay, thank you for your argument or your interpretation about your philosophy story is come from water like Mr. Chicoin Iler, yeah. So next, I want one person again. Maybe this is the interesting name here. Mr. or Miss an unknown man. Oh yeah, Mr. an unknown man. Could you give your perspective or your story about the philosophy, your philosophy? Are you there, Mr. an unknown man?
Yes.
Okay.
Can you hear me? Sorry. Can
Okay.
you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay. Let me tell you about the story, philosophy in my life that I could take one of the animal that is small, but this animal, while they work together, they become more solidarity. I mean, while this animal is ant, right? Everybody know ants, how small the ants, but while they find some food, they can uh, hold at the biggest food together. Sometimes it's unbelievable, but they could be strong because of work together. So the the meaning that the lesson that we can learn from this animal is uh, no matter how rich we are, how smart we are, how strong we are, we cannot stand alone. We need to work together. Togetherness become stronger. That I could say. Thank you.
Okay,
Right.
that's
Back to
thank
moderator.
you, Mr. and Ugno man. Very interesting, yeah. Based on and small animal, but they can to make a good way for other environment that we can to give the example from Anne. Okay, for the last people, maybe Mr. or Miss Kyle. Could you give your perspective or your story about that? Okay. Hi.
Yeah. Are you guys hearing my voice?
Yes, we can.
So since today we talk about Chinese philosophy in terms of modernity or and beyond. So I want to introduce the guys one of my very favorite philosopher. It's called Kongzi. If you guys know that he's one of the very philosopher and Confucius, right? As a famous philosopher. So there is one concept said that you really remember for me since when I was a kid until now. It's called I hear and I forget. I see and I remember. I do and I understand. So it's a very simple, well said from the concept. So it means when you hear for them, but when you see someone, it makes you not really hard, but it can give you a remember for something. But when you do something that you hear, that you see from someone, and you hear from someone, it makes you understand about what you are going to do. That's all. What we're going.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Wei. He has inspiration philosophy come from the Chinese Kongzi. Yeah? Okay, thank you. Next, we continue. Okay, for this slide, I want to ask you guys that do you agree or disagree China is a country of superpower, the world's wide population. So this is based on your interpretation or your perspective. Maybe you can to see from the social, economic, or maybe the population or like we can to know the world's most spoken language estimate number of first language speakers worldwide 2017 million say that Chinese is a very large language that people first in America say them to see from maybe Asia, Southeast Asia, especially our country, Indonesia, 2.8 million Chinese populations of Chinese overseas populations, and maybe Malaysia or Singapore, and we can to see that, and then from the product. So when I was child, I always thinking why I saw from the phones that's in the products labeled with made in China. So this is makes me that's the China have a good or developed country, and I think they have they can give an impact for the world. So by this interpretation, I want to ask you guys that do you agree or disagree? China is a country of superpower and the world's wide population. Times is yours, maybe. Yeah, Mr. M. Indrewanov, you have
Oh yeah.
nice hand.
Actually, I forgot to lower my hand, but yeah, it's okay. I will try to answer it.
Okay.
Based on my opinions, yeah, we can say China is like one of the superpower country in this world because they are strong in military, they are strong in economics, they are strong in their own philosophy, they are strong in everything. Yeah, I suppose. And China is like my next destination to learn exactly, but it's not this year. Yeah, well, what is the reasons that I trying to convey that China is like the country of superpower? I will try to see from the several places or the several countries that the majority of the people there, of the foreigner there, as they have the blood of China. This is like a different philosophy of Indonesia when the several people from Indonesia they changed their nationality in other countries, so we lost them. But based on me, is not all of them we lost from the citizen from Indonesian citizen that changed their nationality in another country. We lost everything from them. Not. It's like what China did. They let the several people in their country to change their nationality. They let them to become USA, American. They let them to become Indonesian. They let them to become Brazilian. They let them to become Russian and others. But on the other hand, their heart is still China. Yeah, their heart is still China. So this is the reason that it will be easier from China's Republic if they have something. It's like a business that they offer to that countries, and they can talk with Chinese too. It's like what's happening in Indonesia. Most of the richest people in Indonesia are Chinese. So when Republic China come to Indonesia, they talk with Chinese, Chinese to Chinese. They have heart. They have a something that it can like one feeling. So this is the reasons that it'll be easier from with their diplomacy to come to Indonesia because most of the people are strong in Indonesia also are as a Chinese. So this is the reasons that I can say Chinese is like a superpower. They can make their own philosophy. They can make uh, their own good relations. They can make everything that related how to get a glory in this world. Yeah, this is my assumption.
Okay, thank you so much, Mr. Amin Nirwanos. That said, he has agreed that the China is a country of superpower and the world's wide population that, based on their perspective, said that China is good for like um, the relation between the Chinese people. Okay, thank you, Mr. M. Indrawanov. So next is Mr. Unggul Purnomo Aji. Could you give your interpretation, your opinion about this? Yeah, times is yours.
Okay. Actually, I just want to broaden the aspects of the China. When we look at the economical aspect, China is not a superpower even because its own currency is not demanded internationally. It means when the China creating trade deficits, it is unable to to rebalance its own deficits because its money is a debt when it's coming to deficit because its money unable to be absorbed in the international market. Different with the 5 countries that I've been saying like US, UK, English, Australia, even or USA, they can do the trade deficit every time. For example, the $2 trillion that held by the China, it is nothing. It is same in the balance sheet of the Fed. The Fed can change it to the cash or change it to the reserve, whatever is it. China enable to finish its own debt that is owed to China to USA. I mean, USA Treasury debt that is owned by China, except for doing export. For example, when the USA creating a high tax for the import stuffs, it means China will hold useless 2 trillion from USA, and then it forcing China to do speculation, and then it is meaningless speculation or something like that. So in that economic terms, China will not be always will not be a superpower country. But for the trapping developing countries, yes, it is, but it's not surpassing the level of USA about this, because yuan is different with the US dollar or with pound sterling or with euro. However, for the capital of the development, I mean about the technology, I mean about the human capital. Yeah, I do agree. In this case, China have like what had been said by the Kibo, and also for the cultural of cultural capital, and what kind of the term of that actually. So in that case, I do agree. But for example, my assumption in the next 50 years, the level of China still a pseudo of superpower country. It means it could be number 2 or number 3. I guess still number 2, and still number 1 is US. But outside of that, it depends on the aspect that we want to emphasize with. But for the economic aspect, for me, US still number 1. And maybe perhaps Indonesia, when we can create the right economic curriculum and teaching it to our government and make the awareness of the people that when we as a currency issuer for minimum, we can achieve whatever material in our country. For example, we can buy unemployment freely, and after that we will have no unemployment anymore. We can create equal society. For example, we need tax not as a revenue for our country, because how could the issuer needs a tax? No, tax is just for example, creating a more equal society in our country, and so on and so forth. Actually, it is my task to build the right economic curriculum in our country. Maybe that is my opinion. Maybe Indonesia could be number 2, number 3, following the China, because we have also big capital. Maybe that is my opinion. Thank you so much.
Oh, thank you, Mr. Unggul Purnomo Aji. Yeah, Mr. Unggul Purnomo Aji said from the economic perspective about the China. So this is the great level, the contradiction with the first argument, but we know that this is the great level to discussion today. So yeah, perhaps I want to see this in my Zoom user interface that Mr. Sunshine. Oh yeah, Mr. Sunshine, could you give your opinion about this statement that China is a country or superpower and the worldwide population? Do you agree or disagree? Times is yours, Mr. Sunshine.
I believe that we need to underline the word superpower. What does it mean first? and after understanding the criteria that we can use to define this word, and after that we can judge whether or not China is worth to be called superpower country. In my perspective, a country can be called superpower if it possesses military or economic might, or both at once. So it means they have a dominance political powers that can influence in the global stage, in world stage. It means it either can strongly influence the conditions of other countries' prosperity or even doom. So I would rather say that in the perspective of Mr. Ongol before, it's like inviting you to know that China is not to the level that it can influence the economic growth globally. But at the same time, I would like to say that China has been so popular as the one who control the power of supplying. Yeah. And the biggest marketplace was USA. So I believe that this kinds of polarization is mutually benefiting one another. So it's neither China or USA become a country that tactically can overwhelm one another, but I believe that they have equal economical power. But to see China based on more military power perspective, I'd rather say that they have a very strong military forces, and but at the same time we couldn't oversee we couldn't overlook what has been done by Germany in World War II. And what about Yugoslavia at the time, or Russia, the place that Mr. Kibo is going to learn abroad few months next few months. I believe that every country that have a how to say adequate or such challenging military power, they could be said as a superpower. I think that's enough interpretations on how we can say that one country, despite the small population they have, regardless the number of the population, regardless how they become so left behind in terms of economical powers, even for example like Vietnam at a time when I heard, I don't know it's wrong or right, but even USA couldn't overcome or couldn't tackle the dominance, couldn't tackle, I mean like couldn't prove their dominance toward Vietnam at the time, because they lose, even though it's a very evidence that USA has a bigger and stronger military forces at that time, but they couldn't tackle Vietnam at the time. So I can say that, yeah, we would like to say that not only China and USA that can interpret as, or we can translate as those superpower nations, but we still see another or other countries that they have a globally economical power or military power that is respected and appreciated by so many other countries. I think that's from me. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Sunshine, for your opinion about this problem. So next, we continue with Mr. Eka Dharmayuda. Could you give your interpretation about this statement? Do you agree or disagree? China is a country of superpower and the world's wide population. Times is yours.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Speaker. For this question, I think my answer will be 50-50. Because just like maybe Mr. Sunshine or Mr. Aji or Mr. Indre said before, that China already start to maintain their power as economic power, not military. Because if you want to say that military power still ruled by the United States, they have a lot of alliance such as like NATO or the Pacific Army or something like that. And then it said that USA still control the power of the world. They can like said just want to start war in Middle East. They just say it, and then there goes war in the Middle East. And my answer for agree that China is superpower because they when they first time announced the Belt Road Initiative, it starts that China already wants to control the economic or the economic power in the region, such as Africa, Asia, and Europe, for example. Europe, such like East Europe, they already try to depend on China, like the mineral, like manufacture, like technology. They already depend on China. They start to re-agreement with United States or the West Europe, and then they move to China. I think it's a plus point from China to try to maintain the program, the program Belt Road Initiative, and also China see the chance that Europe and United States never looked for Africa before. They build port, they build airport, they build factory in Africa, and then they start to how to say it, like to improve Africa quality of life. And it also because of China needs alliance for the United Nations. In United Nations, they still fight for Hong Kong and Taiwan, and if they get the result from Africa, just like 2 years ago when United States tried to veto China because of Hong Kong and Taiwan, they can win the vote because Africa support China, etc., etc. And I think why China, we can say China is superpower because of their system. They faces a lot of struggle in their own region. For example, like civil war, and then the leadership moved to communism, socialism, and then now they already choose Xi Jinping as a lifetime president, something like that. And then we can say China is already can maintain their stability power in their own country, not like United States. They're still fighting as the name of racism, discrimination, identity, political compass or something, or etc. And then we can say that China already now focusing on be the main role of the world politics. But the problem is China don't have alliance in Asia. That's the problem. So that's why I disagree that China is the superpower country, because they don't have alliance in Asia. For example, Japan and South Korea really hate them. We, Indonesia, also hate them. Something like that. So I think that's my opinion. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Eka Dharmayuda, for your based on your opinion. That's yeah. Okay, the last one maybe this is Mr. Chikoning Ilir. Could you give your opinion about these problems? Do you agree or disagree? China is a country of superpower and the world's wide population. Okay, times is yours.
Okay. Well, I do agree with what Mr. Sunshine said before about the underlining what the meaning of the superpower. If it defines as the most power in the world, so it will be questioned by several factors. But I had different perspective regarding what is the factor that could be named as the superpower. I would like to give the three factors after the Union Soviet is ruined and the USA be the one single player to dominate the world. And the three factor is the infinitive war. I mean, the infinitive war consists of the three things. The first is weapon. The second is ideologies. And the third is economics. For this situation, China only in the one side of the economic perspective, because the USA doesn't fear there is a nuclear in the China. There is not the ideologies that they can spare to the other, but in the other side, in the other hand, USA fear with the Iran as the nuclear power, and also the Islamists after the communist is ruined is named as the radicalism, authoritarian, because there is not the rival from the liberalism. For this situation, in the perspective of China will be the one challenges of the superpower country, it will be dominated by the China and also the other country. But in the term of this, I will give the several data that I figure out from the several resources. The first is World Economic Forum released that China beaten Japan as the second world economic in the Asia. So China in the second, what's that? In the second rank of the economic of the world, and the third is Japan. And the other hand, the allies of the China, because the Middle East is unwillingness what America did. So there are a lot of countries that move on to the other allies. For example, like when Joe Biden said the human right in the Uyghur, but the USA doesn't contact with what is happened in Palestine. So like the Iran and also the rival from the USA, Russia, and also Arab Saudi after the Khashoggi defeated or Khashoggi of murder, they moved to the China as the allies. And it will be great because when we dominate as the superpower, so they should have the rival to prove he is superpower or not. And it will be the good thing in the modern era because it will be what's that like the competition. When I'm was child, my teacher always said it is easy to achieve or to gain the first ranking, but it's too difficult to maintain in that position. And for this situation, and the world's wide population, I agree with that because yeah, there is I mean, China, India, America, Indonesia, and also Russia is about the population of the world. But there is the misorganistic, I mean, the issue or the misunderstanding about the big population cannot develop because it is difficult to develop. But I will underline China as the world population because they had the integrity to combat the corruption in that world, in that country, because it contrasts with Indonesia. Indonesia doesn't have the integrity to combat the corruption because what sector we focus, it will be difficult to be success because the corruption is seems like hama, or we can say like parasite, perhaps, like parasite in our government system or the political system. So Indonesia can was that, take the example from the China from this situation, and for yeah for this the response of the USA to hinder the dominance of China, they built the Quad alliances. Or we can say that Australia, India, and also Japan to hamper about the South China disputed. So this situation means China is perhaps is nominated to be the challenges of the superpower country named as the USA. Thanks for me.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chikoning from your perspective. We have a new way, yeah, to thinking about this through these statements. And maybe this is one person again, Mr. or Miss Kaylee. Could you give your opinion about this? Do you agree or disagree China is country of superpower and the worldwide population? Times is yours.
Hi everyone. Well, I maybe gonna write something here. So I could say, if you see I'm writing here, I could say that I really agree with the statement that China is, but we're gonna put a word that China is not only. I think, yeah, that's my statement. So for me, is China is not only a country of superpower. A very simple statement I want to give you guys, a very short a punch for you guys that we know that very well that China is considered as an emerging global superpower. And we know that what could be a superpower. What aspect that superpower that China want to be in this 21st century? So we know that a very simple thing is actually like the previous person say that superpower could be in a three aspect. What is that? A previous person say that it's a economic, military, and a very soft aspect. We call this diplomacy and cultural. So, but I think it's very hard to say that China is a country of superpower since it's really hard for me to say that they are a superpower country because what is a superpower? So for me, superpower is a country that has a capacity to project like dominating power or influence anywhere in the world, not only in the world, but sometimes in more than one region. Like examples say not only Asian of the globe at the time. So the requirements for China to be a superpower, I think for this 21st century is not really required as excelling in multiple areas such as economic, military, and soft aspects such as political and cultural. So beside of that, we also know that it really takes a lot from China to be a superpower country. Maybe I could say it's about 70 years, right? 70 years since maybe I could say that over the past 40 years, China has introduced like a very serious landmark markets such as in Asian, African, One Belt, One Road, that they are emerging to be one of the country of a superpower. We also know that from the powerful today, from the economic growth, is a very afraid from China, nearly about I think it's about based on the what I know is up to 10% a year has transformed the country into a global leader in technology and manufacturing. As we know that China is a very well country in manufacturing. So for me is I could say that as a into as my words say, US is a mess, but China is a worse country. So I couldn't say that China is a country of a superpower, but could be a superpower country, but we don't know when they're gonna be a superpower country because I could say that if humanity want to survive in this superpower country and superpower era in 21st century, it must be understand that our future is requires an awareness of the uniqueness of the destiny and also our self-interest in being altruistic. So that's my opinion for this. China is the country of superpower. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Kelly. Okay, we can to know, yeah, from this more than three people say about their argument, their interpretation, and their perspective based on their way to think about this, agree or disagree. So next, so okay, so next, I will give you about this several perspective, especially for this philosophy, like come from the post-China philosophy that I picked from the Mr. M. Indrewanov said that China have like integrated person in the world or something like that. They have a philosophy in the strong philosophy that they use maybe from the last or past cultural traditional China, but in the modern area they always protect and they always bring. Maybe if the Chinese overseas live in the United States or maybe live in Indonesia or Asia, other Asia, so they only protect to his or her philosophy. So in this slide, I want to show that the several philosophy from China, and I want to perspective about this several China philosophy. Okay, for the first one, philosophy is wake up late to be first poor, sleep at afternoon to be second poor. So I want to give you, for example, maybe you can to give your opinion about this philosophy. Can we apply in modern area that Chinese people believe that if we have a harder about our duty or something, assignment on something, so the lazy or the lazy activity or something like that, we can to handle it, but we must to first one to know about the our purity in assessment or something like that, or work or the activity that's very important. So I want to ask you about this statement of the from the Chinese philosophy said that wake up late to be first poor and sleep at afternoon to be second poor. Okay, maybe I want to know from Miss Sri Rahayu Sukma. Are you here, Miss Sri Rahayu Sukma? Okay, Miss Sri Rahayu Sukma, are you here?
Yeah, sorry.
Okay, could you give your opinion about this philosophy perspective that Chinese philosophy, post-Chinese philosophy perspective about the wake up late to be first poor, sleep at afternoon to be second poor. So could you give your opinion or interpretation about this philosophy? This can be applied, or you can to give your this meaning from this philosophy, or from based on your perspective.
So sorry, Miss. Actually, I'm just trying to pay attention because I have no idea about this one.
Okay, you don't have an idea about this one, yeah. Okay. Yeah, maybe this is Mr. M. Indriwanov. Could you give your opinion about this perspective?
Yeah. The meaning of
Wake
this
up late to be
perspective.
first poor, sleep at afternoon to be second poor.
Yeah. The meaning of this perspective is simple. That we're
Yeah,
trying
you
to
can give
say
your
time is money. Yeah, time is money. So this is the meaning of my assumption regarding to this philosophy, because every people should be productive. It's like when they wake up in the morning, they have to do something. Uh, it's like they should have a progress. It's like they have to obtain knowledge, or they have to earn money or something. So this is like my assumption regarding to this philosophy. Yeah, you should be productive every day. It's like what Jokowi say, kerja, kerja, and kerja.
Okay, Mr. Indriwanov, thank you for your perspective about this post-China philosophy statement. And the next one, at your mind. Okay, raise hand. Mr. Unggul Purnomo Aji, could you give your opinion about this?
Yeah, because China living under, in general, I'm not saying in particular, in general, is about immaterialism world. That is, their purpose is there is no except for having a material. It's like money or property. So because of that, the people on there are always forcing themselves to obtain it, because that is the standard of the success level of someone. Even when we look at the case of the Middle East or even Indonesia, maybe in some part the people of the characteristic of the society has, for example, double standard. Double standard means it's not bad. The one thing is for having the successful on their materials, but the other side, for example, when we look, they are having the purpose for having, for example, relation with the God and so on and so forth. So that's why, because of that, in some part of the group of people, they are not really forcing themselves to always obtain the material as a successful key standard, but they have another part. For example, the material is only for delivering them to another part purpose that they wanted. So because of the different of the standard of level, I mean about the purpose, yeah, the philosophy of China will directly bring the China's country to be what has been said by Eka previously, to be some country like that. But when we look at the case in Syria, Yemen, and so on and so forth, including Indonesia, maybe even when we have the same population, the same area, for example, we have similarity of the region, of the technology, and so on and so forth. Maybe we will achieve the different level of the China, because we have different, for example, purposes, standard that we want to achieve. So because of that, maybe there is a kind of differences philosophy that I can tell on this forum. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you so much, Mr. Unggul Purnamaji, from your perspective of this post-China's philosophy. And then next, perhaps Mr. Sunshine, could you give your interpretation about this post-China philosophy? Time is yours.
So what has been said by Mr. Indre, focusing on being productive, but I would like to respond that by saying that being productive is not limited by particular time when you need to wake up. So basically, those who decide to become an early bird, or how is it the exact the opposite of night owl? Yeah, I'm sorry. So it's either whether or not you become a night owl or early bird. I believe that to become productive is not limited to a particular set of time. So, but from this kinds of picturization, I can catch that it is as if that if you want to be productive, you need to wake up earlier. So that and it also connect the second idea that sleeping and the ability to wake up earlier correlate effectively with how we can effectively boost our wealth. So there is the connection between productivity and how as the sole way to become rich. But we would like to I'd like to say that this is this in particular makes sense. But yeah, let's say that di mana kaki berpijak di situ langit dijunjung, different place, yeah, different pond, different fish. That's what has been mentioned by Mr. Unggul before, that in a different country they have different culture. So this kinds of thing probably have a different significance. For example, like the definitions of wake up earlier in USA probably at 9 o'clock, but in Indonesia it will be like 4 o'clock due to the differences in belief and also in several races, ritual, and cultures, I believe so. So basically what I'm trying to say is that being poor or not somehow related to the productivity, but productivity is not always simultaneously correlated with how late or how out from our sleep. I think that's for me.
Okay, thank you so much, Mr. Sunshine, from your interpretation about this statement. Maybe we can to Mr. Kila, could you give your interpretation about this China post philosophy?
Yeah, thank you. Well, this is a very interesting for me. Also that because it's a very well in China, it's very well known a phrase, or it's a very well philosophy in China. In Chinese, we say this 起床较晚，小午睡觉会再差. So when I was I think this is very interesting to me to see that this proverb. So China, I couldn't say that it's appropriate for us to say that this thing in Indonesian life. So for the reason why it's a praise appeared in China, because in 1970 or 1980, when where China is really poor at that time, the reason why they put this, because they really want to boost Chinese people. So they really want to know that Chinese people, even you are stupid, but at least you need to wake up earlier. So that's the reason why they say it's like a 起床较晚. So this is the reason why, a part history, why this proverb appear in this in China's life. So a second one is actually because China has a very extremely a double living standard. So for example, I'm gonna give a very simple thing. China mostly, when it comes to winter, they wake up at 6 in the morning, which is when winter is 6 in the morning, it's really dark. It's still dark. And when it comes to summer, they wake up like in a 4:30 EM, which is they already wake up and doing morning exercising. So, and the second and third one is actually living standard in China is over than double a standard. They also the same thing with Hong Kong as living standard, which is even Hong Kong is higher than China living standard. So for me is for now in Indonesia, it is okay to say in Indonesia that wake up late to be first poor, sleep afternoon to be second poor. But it's also not really a match with Indonesian life when we go to the Eastern Indonesia, which is happiness. Happiness is the most important thing in Eastern Indonesia. So I could say maybe it appropriate, it matches Indonesia when 10 years up to the Indonesian living standard. But for now, maybe it could be in Indonesian Western, but not in Indonesian Eastern. So for me, it is okay to believe, but do as what you can do and be a productive as what a previous person say. That's all.
Okay, Mr. Kili, it's a very interesting argument or interpretation about this and application from based on Indonesia. 起床晚笑晚下午睡觉会炸馋. Okay, thank you. Okay, next Mr. Juna, could you give your interpretation or opinion about this post-China philosophy? Times is yours.
Okay, thank you. So I really agree with Mr. Sunshine and Mr. Indra about productive in this philosophy. And I just have another opinion, like, it's not only good at our productivitas about our life, but also about the health. Like, when I was in Islamic boarding school, my teachers always say that you shouldn't sleep after subuh, after praying early morning, and you couldn't sleep after praying asar. So it's because our brain, if in the morning it's really fresh, so we could learn very fast. We could remember the material, the lessons very quick. And also, if we sleep in the afternoon, we could get headache. Yeah, headache, is that right? I think, yeah, it's not only in Chinese but also in Indonesia, but just some villages, maybe some cities think about that too. I think that's all. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Juna, for your perspective. Yeah, this is interesting way that the wake up in the morning, it's good for us. Like, yeah, this is the good perspective from the best on the education and your health. Okay, thank you for this for your perspection about this statement. Okay, next one we have several of Chinese. Okay, yeah, this is. For the second statement from the post-China philosophy, said that. I'm sorry. Said that oh sorry, oh, I'm sorry, my computer is said that the teacher opened the doors but you answer by yourself. So what do you think about this statement or the philosophy that teachers open the door but you answer by yourself? Maybe many people say that teacher is only like a physical statement from based on their perspective is of physical, like maybe they assumes from the if he or she in a classroom and then he or she see the teachers or that teach him or her, but we can to give our opinion that the teacher is not only from the classroom, right? But in this Chinese philosophy says that the teachers open the door but you enter by yourself, but from the Confucius. Could you give your opinion about this? Okay, I want to try with maybe Mr. Ku.
Hey, can you hear my voice?
Yes, Mr. Ku.
Okay. Teachers
Good.
open the doors, but
Thank
you
you.
enter by yourself. From Mr. Roberts said that teachers not only teach in the school or in the building, but also from the China statement that teachers can be found it's like someone who has another skill. It means we can study from that, even though children, adults, or the old people, when they have another skill, we can learn from them. Okay, that's it. This is my statement about teachers. Thank you, Mr.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Ku, for your interpretation from this post-China philosophy statement. Okay, next. Oh yeah, Mr. Frida, about this post-China philosophy statement. Okay, times is your Mr.
Yes.
Frida.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Hudi, for this occasion. Um, Knowledge is not easy as ABC to gaining that. We need the experience, we need to feel it, we need to see it directly, and by catching it, we need to do it. So sometimes teachers just give the information about something, but gaining it or enter by yourself means that we need to do it directly. Just it. Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Frida. Yeah. Thank you for your interpretation or your opinion about these statements. Okay, Mr. Hile, do you want to give opinion about this?
Hi everyone. Well, this is very interesting. I think the one who made this PPT is very interesting with Chinese proverb. Yeah. So in Mandarin, we call it is a 师傅领进门，学行在个人. Okay, so it is when I was in school in Shanghai before, and I really heard my teacher about this because we have like African student from other country in US and Europe. They're really kind of like a person like very lazy, like to learn example on Chinese because it's a Chinese the pressure is very hard. So for me, it's a very I think there's a English one that very regarding about this proverb, it's what is yeah, you can lead a horse to water, but you cannot make the horse drink. Yeah. So for me, it's something like this. This is a proverb mean, which is you can give someone an opportunity, but you cannot force them to take it. So example, um, you are my a friend that you actually need to work a job. So I can give you an email address for the requirement, the person who in charge of requirement. But um, the way that you come get into the job, it depends on you. So for me, it actually means like um, I can lead you to some places, but I cannot make you through these places. The one who can through or pace in this thing is only you. So the meaning of 师傅领进门，学习在个人 is the master can lead you to the door, but the rest is up to you. Yeah, that's all.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Kili, for your interpretation about this Chinese philosophy, post-Chinese philosophy statement. Okay, next, yeah, this is Mr. Chikoneng Ilir. Could you give your opinion about this post-China philosophy statement?
Okay, well, teachers open the doors, but you enter by yourself. I'm sorry, I cannot pronounce the China literal. Maybe you can teach me about that. Yeah, regarding to this issue, I really interesting because I think teacher is our guidance to see the word, and the method will be vary every single teacher, and teacher as the guideline or the was the soldier in front of line to guide their student. I will come to when my teacher said learning English without learning English. So how we can figure out that statement, learning English without learning English? And he conducted the method that he gave was that the tool that you can find a biases in every single article and the entire for this issue, so I can figure out the critical thinking is the core in the philosophy. Because by doing that, the entire thing like the language structure or whatever is it, grammar and phrase and noun will become when we try to start. So that is the meaning of learning English without learning English. And in this situation too, Indonesia is difficult to fabricate a great teacher because Indonesia assume teacher is the angel. They don't need a money. And there are a lot of the hero for the teacher in Indonesia, and the job of teacher is less interested because the salary and the entire thing, except in contrast of in contrast of the lecture, because lecture will be different. Will the I mean he is a teacher, but the salary will be different. And for this situation, I will come to the philosophy of Ki Hajar Dewantara, perhaps. He said the great teacher is an who accomplish many achievements in their life, but he can fabricate their student to accomplish many achievements in their life. So it is the great teacher. That means teacher open the door, you enter by yourself. In every single door, you choose to see the word. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chikonen Ilir, from your based on your interpretation. This good. That's yeah, interesting. Yeah, a teacher in Indonesia is a hero, not need money much money. Okay, okay, that's the good one statement from based on our daily life in Indonesia maybe. So next, oh yeah, Mr. M. Indrewano, could you give your opinion about this statement? Teacher open the doors, but you enter by yourself.
Yeah, well, so
Times is yours.
this is the old message exactly. Teachers open the doors, but you enter by yourself. But today is changed. Google open the doors, but you type by yourself. You will get that knowledge. It has many things that has been proved by the people learning by the Google, by the people learning by the YouTube and others. So this is the reasons that this philosophy has been old. Nowadays, one of the job that cannot be changed by the robot is not teachers, is not what else? Is not machine and others. Teacher can be changed by the robot. Machine can be changed the robot, but imam masjid cannot be changed by the robot. It's only that. Thank you.
It seems like that Mr. Hudi has trouble with his connection, maybe. Okay, he has trouble with his connection. Maybe I will continue. Thank you, Mr. Indrewano, for your occasion. Okay, Mr. Hudi, is your connection problem is
Hello,
solved?
sorry. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Amindrewano, for your interpretation opinion. Okay, next, the last of several Chinese philosophy perspective is Chinese people says that cultivated knowledge can be more important than creativity. This post Chinese philosophy, is it a good is it a have a good philosophy, or we can apply of this philosophy in our life? Because maybe we can to think that creativity is a very identical with a millennial, because that creativity is important maybe in the modern era, but this philosophy said but have a contradiction with the cultivated knowledge can be more important than creativity. So okay, you can to give your opinion about this statement. Maybe I want to know about Mr. Bob. Are you here, Mr. Bob? Or Miss Bob? Mr. Bob or Miss Bob? Are you here? Mr. Bob? Okay, I think Mr. Bob not here. So maybe Mr. Alexander, are you here, Mr. Alexander?
Yes, sir. Yes, Mr. Rudy.
Okay, could you give your opinion about this post-Chinese philosophy that cultivated knowledge can be more important than creativity?
That's actually an interesting question, since if we see problems occurring around the world right now, the problems actually have possessed their own completions, right? How to solve problems happening around the world. It's actually already found or created by knowledge invented by masters or even scientists, right? Let's say about economy. Actually, regarding economic crisis, for example, I believe there's already a lot of conclusions regarding the solutions about what's happening in the world right now. If we can cultivate those knowledge well or thoughtfully, I believe we can actually solve or tackle those problems. It's actually very important to be taken by the authority, right? Unfortunately, I could say that the authority hasn't taken a lot of attentions or paid a lot of attention toward this knowledge. They actually perhaps pay more attention on their importance, on their interest instead of knowledge itself. So yeah, I guess I do agree with this statement. Having said that, it doesn't mean that creativity, in my honest opinion, is not essential to be created. I think creativity is also good to solve several problems happening in the world. For example, regarding a pandemic, right? Let's say if the scientists haven't found the vaccines, for example, I believe it needs creativity, right, to create those inventions. In this circumstance, I could say that creativity is also pivotal to be created. And in a nutshell, from what I have said previously, both things are pivotal. Thank you, sir.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Alexander, from your opinion. That's the good, yeah. So, okay, next, perhaps Mr. Indrawanov, could you give your opinion about this statement? Times is yours.
Yeah, well, I do agree with this statement. Knowledge is like a garden. If it is not cultivated, it cannot be harvested. But you have to know what kind of the plant that you cultivate. If you already know that plant is harm to the people, it doesn't like to the people, you have to be hurry to change your plant. Don't force yourself always to use that plant. It's almost same what's happening today. If you have a plant that your business will be nice in this situation, but pandemic comes, you have to do a pivoting. In business, it's called by pivoting. You have to do agile. You have to do pivoting to change everything that it's related with the people. So it's almost same with what's happening in by the data by World Economic Forum, for instance. If we talk about the skill, in 2015, yeah, the skill that needs by this role is such as complex problem solving, and the second is coordinating with others, and the third people management, and the fourth critical thinking, and the five negotiation. This is in 2015, but in 2020 they are changed. Yeah, in the first thing it's still complex problem solving, but in the second they are changed from coordinating with others in the second in 2015. But in 2020, in the second skill that this role needs, that is critical thinking. And the third, from people management to creativity, from critical thinking to people management. So everything that's changed by the skill that needs by the people, sorts by the World Economic Forum. So how about in 2022? Yeah, the World Economic Forum has been published that the first thing or the first skill that this role needs, that is analytical thinking and innovation, and the second, active learning and learning strategies, and in the third, that is creativity. So this is the reason that I would like to say everything is changed every day. If you know about the proverb, the only constant in life is change. Yeah, so you have to adapt with the situation. So this is the reasons that there is the reasons that is not the all of the philosophy that will be same every day, because the world is always changed, the knowledge is always changed, everything that is changed every day. So this is what I said. If you try to cultivate something, it's like a plant today, this year, on the next year, but for 3 years or 50 years from now, everything will be changed. So you should see your plan, it'll be switchable to the people or not. So it's talking about the adaptability, how to reach that success itself. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. That's this is the response. Knowledge is like a garden, yeah, like based on your plan that you cultivate, yeah. So this is the good statement that we can to know about this interpretation based on Mr. Indriwanov. So next, oh yeah, Mr. Kili, could you give your opinion or perspective about this statement? Okay, times is yours.
Thank you, Robertus. This is very interesting, right? The cultivated knowledge can be more important than the creativity. So there's one you said before. I think it should be two things we say. For me, it's like creativity and imagination versus knowledge and wisdom, because it was said also in the Mandarin. In the Hanzi, it say like 人智之一, so it's the question is actually for me, it's really hard for me to say that because this thing is very hard. So I'm so sorry. I really not I agree, but I also more agree with my statement. So as I ever know that Albert Einstein ever say that imagination is more important than knowledge. So and Albert also said for knowledge is limited to all. So we now know and understand, while imagination embraces the entire world, and all there ever will be to know and understand. So it's really difficult to argue this statement, because it's not just because it was said by a genius one, Albert Einstein, but it's also a true. So for me, it's actually my opinion. It is not really a good standard for us now in this 21st century, which is we are more to the technology century or artificial intelligence century. So it is the imagination for me as an engineer and also as an entrepreneur. It is the imagination and creativity for me that has been driving the engine of our civilization. So for me, also entrepreneurs often referred to as creators, right? Because they are in the business of creating and innovating, right? So we say innovating, but it's more to the creativity and imagination. So example, the one who make you is clever is not because you are very knowledge, but your curiosity. So from what the curiosity has happened is from your imagination. So for me, creativity, imagination, I couldn't say that more important, but yeah, for this century, what we say as our today discussion for a Chinese post philosophy. So creativity and imagination, I think for us in this millennial era, I couldn't say more important, but it's a step than the knowledge and wisdom. Yeah, thank you.
Okay, Mr. Kili, thank you for your interpretation. Yeah, goodness that creativity, imagination is a millennial era, but we can't know that from these statements that we can to apply for based on your based on our opinion. So next, Mr. Sunshine, could you give your interpretation about this statement of the post-Chinese philosophy statements? Okay.
Once again, we need to
It's
understand
yours.
the very spirit of the topic that we are going to discuss first. So I do really agree with what has been said by the previous speaker, that Mr. Kylie underlined the meanings of knowledge and creativity. But at the same time, I'd like to also add up several informations. We need to understand what do we comprehend from cultivations of knowledge, because in my mind, cultivation is not simply as planting, harvesting, or cropping something from something that we plant, like trees or and so on. So based on my perspective, that cultivations of knowledge is like way we live as the social creators by nature, and we have interactions with others that really shape us with a lot of variety of informations. We observe our environment processes and just the ideas that we want to keep or reject. So the process of selecting knowledge to add to our identity is called cultivations of knowledge. So it's not only mean that the process of selecting the knowledge that's actually relevant to the demands that currently we have, but also how to add up the several things or several informations that that we wanted to become our identity, the symbol of ourselves. So it's not simple as harvesting and taking something, but at the same time, I do agree with what has been said by Mr. Indrawana before, that it is adaptability. But uh, adaptability itself means that we do not really consider the things that put right here. We don't think that it is really wisdom and righteousness. It's not the very first thing that need to be prioritized, because adaptability, it means you can actually adapt yourself regardless the ways, yeah, regardless the thing you do bad deeds, you do good deeds, as long as you can adapt to the environment you live in, that's okay. So based on what assumed by Mr. Kali as well, divining the creativity, it means that in my perspective, that knowledge and creativity is like connecting one another. You cannot separate it. Both of them are equally important. There is no one that actually more important than another. Okay, why I say so? Because in my mind, creativity contains of two processes. The first is called thinking, and then producing. So thinking and producing needs or in dire needs of knowledge. You cannot think about anything if you do not have fundamental information on how to process the knowledge and how to produce something that actually in line with what you imagined before. If we couldn't think about how to imagine, of course we couldn't put it into practices. Okay, so we need knowledge to make our imagination come true, because creativity is it's like in previous talks, like the combinations between which one is more general than another. But I'll rather say that both are equal in terms of generality or in terms of speciality, and they fulfill one another, they complete one another, because to make our imaginative ideas into reality, we need knowledge, and without having proper knowledge, we couldn't creativity is like meaningless and useless. I think that's for me. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Sunshine, for your interpretation about this. Yeah, it's very interesting. Yeah, that knowledge and creativity is sometimes that we can to adopt or apply from the something great for something to see. Okay, next. Okay, maybe. Okay, because of the times. This is the last question for today. Um, could we apply post-China philosophy in our life? Okay, we know that many people say from their arguments or interpretation about the Chinese philosophy and their own to give the opinion about that. So I want to see if this is from this your opinion for your interpretation. Can we apply post-China philosophy in our life? Perhaps we can to see that we live in Indonesia, right? So Indonesia have a multicultural diversity. Maybe Javanese is different like Malay, or Malay different like Dayanese, and maybe we can to learn from other country and other culture, that we can to apply or adopt the positive vibes, and we can to throw away the negative impact. So I want to ask this based on your interpretation, your perspectives about the could we apply post-China philosophy in our life? I want to ask Mr. Okay, Mr. Ku. Hello. Are you here, Mr. Ku? Okay,
Yes, sir.
thank you.
Okay, can apply for
Times
the.
it's yours, Mr. Ku.
Okay, can apply. Thank you. We can apply post China philosophy in our life. Yeah, I got it from the several people which come from China. It's like Sigma, who has pushed my motivation to grow up. Why? Because Jack Ma is from poor people, but because of he has high motivation to be rich by doing many ways how to achieve it, how to reach his imagination become real till he has platform until his platform is the biggest or I don't know how numbers their platform right now in the world. It means Jack Ma is the worst, the richest people in China. I study from his philosophy. Even though we are from the poor, but we don't afraid of competing with other people. The point is we have to be optimist, not become pessimist. Why? When we see from the optimist side, we always think from the positive side, not negative side. So that even though what is the correlation between that philosophy but in this case that I correlated with in this case, even though in this pandemic situation, but we see when we see from the negative side we will just complain, but when we see from the positive side, it's it appreciates from everything we can do right now. We can learn from everything which happens in this case. Okay, thank you, Mr. Robert.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Ku, for your interpretation of for this statement. Okay, next, this is Mr. Kili. Could you give your opinion or interpretation about this statement? Could we apply post-China philosophy in our life? Yeah, times is yours, Mr. Kili.
Well, thank you anyway for your opportunity. It's can we apply China philosophy in our life? Well, if you can apply English philosophy in your life, why not China? So I think there's no difference. It's the difference only a culture. So the reason why China have a philosophy is because they have so many philosophy school, such as like Kongzi, which is that is Confucius. There's also a Laozi, which is actually a student from the Kongzi, Mengzi. So there's a lot of philosophy culture and school in China. So for me, philosophy, it's really hard to know something in a philosophy way. So a philosopher, someone who really has a wisdom, they know, understand, and deeper things that you might not really know about that. So for me, we can apply the Chinese philosophy, but we can actually, do in our era, not in a Chinese era. So you can just apply a philosophy, but in your era. So you means like, if you say like that before that a teacher opened the door and then the rest is you do. Yeah, same thing is like us. Google giving us like what is Mr. Indre say that now it's not a teacher, but it's a Google. So you can apply, but in our way, in our modern era. So if you say that China philosophy can apply in our life, of course we can. Yeah, that's a very, very interesting way, because it's just culture that divide us, but the rest meaning it's the same thing, because we are one civilization and we are all the same people. It's just a culture. So we can apply anything. If you Chinese, Nepalese, Burmese, or Bhutanese, same philosophy. I mean, but yeah, it's just a culture. So everything, it's very relevant in our life for now, because we learn philosophy is also we learn about our future. Yeah, that's all. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Kili, that say that learn philosophy, we learn about future. Okay, thank you for your interpretation about this statement. Okay, next one, the last one for Mr. Cikoneng Ilir. Could you give your opinion about this statement? Yeah, times is yours, Mr. Cikoneng Ilir.
Okay. Well, I will question again for this question. Can we apply post the China philosophy in our life? Perhaps there is the differences between apply and maintain, because absolutely we can apply, but the question is maintaining it. It should be a possible or not, because every single era will be different. And the other hand, there are a lot of philosophy in this world. It will be coming from Western, or coming from the medieval era, or perhaps from the Unani era. There is the entire philosophy. It could be applied in Indonesia when China dominate the world, because I think there are a lot of societies learn about Western, like liberalism, human rights, and in the other thing, because the Western dominate the world. And the way that the philosophy of China will be implemented in every single nation is dominating to be the superpower country. And for this situation also, in contrast, I would say that the certain thing is reluctant by the societies, because it is totally different with the culture and also the history of the country. So I will recite or reiterate the statement from the Sukarno, jas merah, how rather than we implement the China philosophy, why we cannot build the Indonesia philosophy to maintain in every single heart of citizens. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Cikoneng Ilir. So, okay, thank you for your interpretation about this statement. And yeah, because of the times, oh yeah, this is finished our discussion today. I'm very happy and today because many people's active, and we can to share about our opinion, our interpretation, and then our thinking way. That this is the very interesting to me, and this is the first experience with me that I can to join this OTA community, that we can to share. That I hope that every opinion or interpretation, that the positive vibes that we can to apply, that we can to know more, we can to apply in our life. But maybe if we have in this presentation have a negative or something like not good, we can to throw away from our life. Yeah. And I apologize if during the moderator there are words that are not pleasing. So this is, I still learn English, but this is makes me happy today. And thank you for your attention for this evening. You are so fighting, and I hope that we can to meet again. Okay, for Mr. Fitra, I will give the time back to you. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Hudi, for your moderation in this discussion. And probably I will share about a few feedback for you all that I get. Sorry. Okay. The first is about the model from Can. It's not quite true if we use can to try to use can only. Just can seems like I can eat or the others. Don't use I can to eat. No, not like that. And then when we want to deliver our ideas, besides we use I think, probably we can use I suppose, I assume, in my opinion, as far as I know, and etc. And then it's very interesting. Maybe it will be similar if we use exciting. And then benevolence is doing something kind, ya, melakukan sesuatu yang baik, kebajikan. Kemudian ada beberapa ini yang saya perhatikan tuh, misalkan ketika teman-teman menggunakan kata-kata yang jamak gitu, misalnya kayak three factors gitu ya, kan ada s-nya ya, kadang lupa s-nya, nah itu perlu di ingat-ingat. Atau kadang juga ada juga yang bilang superpower could be defined in three aspects. Nah, terus habis itu what is that, kan jadi lucu gitu. Harusnya kan defined in three aspects. What are those, seperti itu. Habis itu tadi juga dikatakan seems like Mr. Joko Widodo said kerja, ya itu mungkin memang kata-katanya Mr. Joko Widodo, tapi mungkin perlu juga diberikan keterangan kerja itu apa, yaitu work. Terus ada satu quotes dari Mr. Unknown Man. When you are in the Rome, do as a Roman do. Di mana bumi dipijak, di situ langit dijunjung. Ini mungkin bisa menjadi suatu proverb buat teman-teman, bisa juga. Habis itu tadi juga sempat ada yang keceplosan bilang produktivitas, yaitu productivity. Habis itu ada yang bingung tadi kayaknya headache atau headache. Kalau di Cambridge itu bilangnya headache, gitu, baik UK maupun US. Habis itu propriety itu adalah kesopanan, tadi ada di PPT. Kemudian ada juga righteousness, itu kebenaran, ada juga di PPT tadi. Mungkin kalau ada teman-teman yang bingung artinya apa. Ya itu saja. That's all for our discussion today. Maybe before end our discussion, we need to taking picture.